This is a special report from About Space Today.
I think Mars fascinates us because it's the most Earth-like planet that we have in the solar system. We see things on it that we can recognize: volcanoes, ancient river channels, sand dunes, polar caps. But at some point we had very divergent histories. And if there was ever life on Mars, something obviously happened to it so that it is not like what we see today. And we really want to know, why did that happen? Why is Earth so unique compared to our neighbor that maybe was like Earth in the past, but is very different from us today?
That was Dr. Tanya Harrison, a planetary scientist. Welcome to Special Report. I'm David Denault. Well, people have yet to set foot on Mars, but over time, Mars has actually come to us. Chunks of Martian rock ejected from the planet by processes such as violent impacts have found their way through the solar system to end up crashing into Earth. More on Martian meteorites with Dr. Harrison next, as America and the world is listening to Special Report on About Space Today. Ever dream of an island getaway at an all-inclusive resort? Or going on an island-hopping cruise to multiple island destinations? See sun-bleached beaches and swim in the azure waters of the Caribbean Sea. Call today for your special discount prices to your island getaway. This is a special offer for About Space by calling 877-747-8631. And let's go and explore the islands of the Caribbean. Welcome back. Dr. Harrison says more than 200 Martian meteorites have been recovered.
So Martian meteorites are rocks that came from Mars, and we found them here on Earth, and we found 235 of them so far. And this is really interesting because we don't have any samples that we've ever brought back from Mars with any of our robotic missions, and so these are the only pieces of Mars that we actually have here on Earth. They were launched off the planet by probably giant impacts. So an asteroid traveling through space smashes into Mars, launches all sorts of debris all over the place, and some of that manages to escape the gravity well of Mars and make it all the way to Earth. And then it lands somewhere here on Earth where people combing either the deserts of the Sahara or the ice of Antarctica, they can find it and then bring it to a lab so we can determine where that meteorite came from. When I actually get to see a Martian meteorite, it's really exciting because it's a piece of another planet that has come 200 million miles through space to us here on Earth.
And Dr. Harrison says these rocks can be identified as being from Mars based on what we've learned from the early Viking mission.
When we sent the Viking missions to Mars in the 1970s, we were able to analyze the composition of the Martian atmosphere. And these meteorites that we have on Earth, we know they came from Mars because they have little trapped gas bubbles of the atmosphere of Mars inside of them. And it's very different from the atmosphere of Earth. So there's no other way to explain how those gas bubbles got in there. And if we didn't have that data from Viking, we would never have known that these meteorites came from Mars. Generally, we can tell from the composition if a meteorite came from Mars, even if it doesn't have the little trapped gas bubbles in it, because they look very distinct and they generally fall into three categories: shergottites, knocklights, and chassignites. And those are all very different from the regular meteorites that we get from asteroids that are just, say, in the asteroid belt. All of the meteorites that we have from Mars tend to be volcanic, so basaltic rocks that are kind of like the stuff that flow out of the volcanoes on Hawaii here on Earth. And so that doesn't tend to be very magnetic, and so if you saw it just laying out on the ground on Earth, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell visually that it was different from a volcanic rock that just came from here. The meteorites that we have from Mars show us a lot of pieces of the history of the red planet. Things like hydrated minerals, so stuff with water in it, other types of things that are good chemicals for life to thrive. And we see pieces of that with stuff we've analyzed with the rovers and the orbiters, but we can do a lot more scientific analysis in labs with those physical samples with the meteorites here on Earth, with machinery that we either can't miniaturize to a rover platform, or it's just too expensive to try and do that. I really hope that we get to see humans walking on Mars in my lifetime, just because I want to see some of the big questions about Mars answered, because I really just want to know the big picture. I want to know what it all means, where it all came from. I don't think I'm ever going to go to Mars, but I at least want to see people go there.
And closer to home, one Martian meteorite winds up in Fort Myers, Florida. Fox News reporter Michael Cadigan is at the Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium.
Tonight, people got a very special opportunity to actually touch a piece of Martian history. That's right. They didn't have to look at it in a textbook or a documentary. Nope, they got to see it in person, and there's actually a small piece of it that's safe to touch.
This little rock
About the size of a golf ball.
is the star of a new exhibit.
This meteorite is a little dark gray object. And it's little because Martian meteorites are rare.
So rare, the Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium is one of the few places in the country where you can now have your own close encounter.
We are about to become the 4th place in the United States where you can actually touch a piece of Mars.
All thanks to the donation of meteorite hunter Tim Heitz. The little chunk of Martian rock came a long way.
It was a pretty amazing trip to get here.
It was knocked loose from something crashing into Mars and wound up in the deserts of Morocco, where it spent most of its time hiding.
These were ones that had probably been there for a while, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 years. They've been on the desert floor.
Meteorite hunting is a lot like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Reporting in Fort Myers, Michael Cadigan, Fox 4.
While I don't own a Martian meteorite, I have a small piece of a meteorite from Campo de Cielo from Argentina. But that's another story. And a story you won't want to miss is Friday's America in Space with Don Meyer. In his own words, Carl Sagan sends a message to Martian astronauts. Thanks for joining me about rocks from Mars. I'm David Denault, and this has been Special Report on About Space Today.
This has been a special report from About Space Today.
With Don Meyer. In his own words, Carl Sagan sends a message to Martian astronauts.